As always, a lot to talk about here on First Take today. James Harden having a huge night last night. So we asked the question, is he the most important piece of that big three puzzle? Also, All-Star game already raising a ton of concerns. Guess what? They aren't even allowing you to party in ATL this year. Should they even have the game? Also, guess what is HBCU Wednesday for Morehouse College? Take it away.
The tragedy of life is not
found in failure, but complacency.
Not in you doing too much,
but doing too little.
Not in you living above your means,
but below your capacity. It's not failure, but aiming too low.
That is life's greatest tragedy.
Legendary Morehouse College president, Benjamin E. Mays.
Welcome to the house.
All right, a big thank you, big shout out to Morehouse College. It is HBCU Wednesday. They're going to be joining us in and out of the show, giving us a peek into their campus lifestyle and what's going on at Morehouse. And I want to ask what's going on to everybody here. Thanks for joining us. It is First Take. It is Wednesday. I'm Charlie Arnold. We got Max Kellerman. We got Kendrick Perkins in the house, stepping in for Stephen A. He'll be here in just a little bit. And guys, we have a lot to get to. The Nets had a big already. Look at this blue suit that Kendrick Perkins has showed up in.
There he is.
Why aren't you wearing a blue suit, Max? Okay, guys.
Blue suit?
We are going to get it started. The Nets had a big Blue Suit Wednesday. That's what we're going to call it. All right, guys. James Harden setting it off last night. He was on fire. The Nets were visiting the Suns. They were considered the underdogs with both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving out, and it looked to play out that way at the break. But then James Harden heated up, helping Brooklyn to pull off one of the most impressive comebacks of the season, winning 128-124. James Harden ended the game with 38 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds, moving the Nets into sole position of the number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference. So, Max, did James Harden prove with his performance last night that he is the most important factor of the big three?
He did, but Perk, I heard you call me out. What's up? You have something to say?
No, go ahead. Do your thing. Do your thing right quick. I want to hear what you got to say, Max.
Okay.
Go ahead and handle your business. I want to hear this.
The answer is yes. Harden is the key. And let me be very clear. I am in no way saying he is better than Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the best player on the team. But Harden's the key to the big three. He is. Let's rewind this. Remember when the trade took place? Harden was playing himself out of Houston, right? He wasn't even in the lineup, and he wasn't playing well before he left, and he was throwing it looked just bad for Harden, and everyone knew why he was doing it. He's trying to force his way out of town, and it worked. He shows up in Brooklyn. Perk, how many times have I said it? Fat, looking like he just rolled out of bed, looking like a hot mess. And what'd he do? Rolled out of bed. No Kyrie at the time. Kyrie wasn't playing at the time. It was Harden and KD, and started killing them. They started winning right away, as though they never missed the best. They've been playing together this whole time. Harden, when he got to the team, was the guy who was going to have to sacrifice the most. I knew that from the beginning. It wasn't going to be Kyrie. It was going to be Harden. And what has Harden done? You know what it reminds me of, Perk? When I was a kid, I used to hear stories, because I was born in 73. The Knicks won the championship January 73. I was born in August, last time they won a title. And I would hear stories of Earl the Pearl Monroe coming to the Knicks, right? And Earl the Pearl Monroe, back then known as Black Jesus, if you want to YouTube Earl the Pearl, he would be giving guys the business today. Today, he was nasty. And the whole thing was there's only one ball. How are they going to share this backcourt, these two guys? But Earl the Pearl wanted to be great. Clyde Frazier already had a ring. He wanted to be great. And so it worked fine. They won the championship together. How are they going to work this? What's going to happen? James Harden has given up shots until they needed him to score last night. He's done everything that he's needed to do. His judgment with the ball and his court vision, setting up teammates, has been extraordinary. And he is the key to this offense.
All right, and Stephen A. Smith now here on First Take. So, Stephen A., we're asking the question right now, with James Harden's dynamic performance last night, scoring 38 points, helping them to get that comeback victory, is he now considered the most important factor of the big three?
No, he's not. He's great. He showed it last night. He reminded us of what he can do when he doesn't have a big two to go along with him. But the key component in all of this is Kevin Durant. When you talk about the Brooklyn Nets and being title contenders or legitimately winning the chip, it's not going to happen without KD. KD can win a chip potentially with Kyrie. KD can win a chip potentially with James Harden. KD could definitely win a chip with the both of them. Neither of them are winning it without him. That's the bottom line. If Kyrie and Harden were the cornerstones of this franchise, we wouldn't be talking about the Nets winning the championship. We'd be talking about them being a contender, but we'd have legitimate arguments as to why they wouldn't even come out of the Eastern Conference. That's the difference. Now, that's not to diminish what James Harden is giving you in any way. James Harden is a superstar in this league. He's fresh off of averaging over 30 the last 3 years. He's captured the league MVP. We know how electrifying offensively he is. And what he's been doing this year is unbelievable because he's as selfless as they come. He's highlighting the fact that he can be selfless. He hasn't been given enough credit for it. He is the best point guard on the team and might be the best point guard in basketball right now, the way that he's been playing and running the show for the Brooklyn Nets. But in the end, what it comes down to is you ain't getting but so far and you ain't doing but so much unless you have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the key to the Nets' big three. Without him, it doesn't work.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I respectfully disagree, and both of you guys came up with great points. But the key to this team, to the big three, is Kyrie Irving. We already know what we're going to get out of Kevin Durant. We know the efficiency, and he's going to put the ball in the basket at a high efficiency level. We know that James Harden could also put the ball in the basket, but also make guys around him better and lead the league in assists, as you just alluded to, Stephen A., the best point guard on that team and probably the best point guard in the league right now. But when you talk about Kyrie Irving, he is going to be the deciding factor in all this. And here's why. He has one job, and that job is to go out there and be that guy to get buckets. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the defense is so horrendous and so terrible that they're going to have to beat a lot of teams and win a lot of series on the offensive end. And if Kyrie Irving don't have those monster nights and don't shoot at a high efficiency level, then the Brooklyn Nets are not going anywhere. They need Kyrie Irving to be the Kyrie Irving that we have been witnessing this season, arguably having the best season of his career, especially efficiency-wise. So when I look at the key to the big three, I strongly believe that it's Kyrie Irving that's going to be the deciding factor whether or not they win the championship.
I think it's James Harden. Look, Kyrie is freed up now, guys. Kyrie is freed up. When he said, you're the point guard, I'm the off guard, it freed Kyrie up to score. No one's going to stop Kyrie Irving from scoring when he doesn't have to especially worry about running the offense, because Kyrie has some court vision and obviously can pass, but not court vision that James Harden has. And James Harden shows better judgment with the ball. I mean, when you think about the responsibility of Harden in this offense, and I really believe you take anyone off this team, they're not going to win a championship. But all three, they can, and they very well might, even this year, if they can get the defense together. Harden is the guy asked to change. He's the guy asked to give up shots. And last night, talk about judgment, he's the guy hunting mismatches and pick and rolling them to death in the second half. Of course, used to D'Antoni, Steve Nash, D'Antoni on the bench, pick and rolling them to death in the second half, showing that judgment and court vision, never mind scoring ability. He was the guy who from day one made it work with KD, and then after a couple weeks figured it out with Kyrie. He's the glue guy. He's the guy who holds it all together.
Well, like I said, not only am I making the argument that I make, but I'm gonna come at you, Big Perk, with this. I think that you're looking at it from a negative perspective, and I'm looking at it from a positive perspective. You're thinking about Kyrie. He could be great on a positive level, or he could be destructive because something might happen to him emotionally and he might not want to play or something along those lines. So it could go either way, which makes him a key. I'm saying what makes Kevin Durant the key is that nothing works without KD. You could be as positive as you want to be with Kyrie and James Harden, or negative. It don't matter. Without Kevin Durant, it does not work. But with Kevin Durant, everything could potentially work and everything could potentially be overcome. Think about this with James Harden for a second here, guys. When we talk about how explosive Kyrie can be, both of you acknowledge how explosive. Anybody with two eyes can see how explosive Kyrie can be. He's a superstar. He's box office. You walk through the turnstiles to see the kind of show that he can put on. But if something happened to Kyrie, you trying to tell me that James Harden can't pick up that slack? Oh, yes, he can. He can pick up that slack. He most certainly can. Nobody can pick up the slack that KD leaves behind. That's where I'm coming from with it.
Well, he's the best player. KD's the best player.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that. And I'm not arguing that James Harden is not. The thing is that if you're talking about the Brooklyn Nets winning the championship, we're looking at Kyrie Irving, and I'm not talking about what he's doing off the court or positive or negative. I'm talking about Kyrie Irving producing at a high level, because when Kyrie Irving was out, our whole conversation was that how he's going to fit when he comes back. Who's going to be the Batman? Who's going to be the Robin? Kyrie Irving came back, and not only has he been playing phenomenal basketball, but he has been taking over 4 quarters when the big three has been healthy. If last time I checked, when the big three has been on the court and the game get close in the 4th quarter, majority of the time the ball has been in Kyrie Irving's hands, and he has been delivering. That's all I'm saying. He is the key.
And I'm saying to you, they won't win if that continues. Kyrie can average 40, but if he's taking double the amount of shots of James Harden, and he's the one with the ball with the ball in his hands and late in the games in 4th quarters at the expense of a Kevin Durant, that is not a winning formula. It has to go through KD to win the chip. To win
you
the
make
chip,
sure you fix your attitude. I know you out there in LA, but you fix your attitude this morning.
But you don't tell me what to do. What you mean fix my attitude?
He's
You better
got
watch
that
your
LA
mouth.
vibe.
You better watch your mouth, Big Perk. I don't care. What do you think you scaring? What you talking about? I'm going to fix my attitude. My attitude actually is very, very fine. I'm in LA. I mean, I'm very good. If we want to be clear about it. You know, you the one freezing up in Texas.
Absolutely. Stephen A., we like it. Guys, listen, as of last night, James Harden posted his 7th 30-point game and a 20-point comeback win. That is 2 more than any other player in the past 25 seasons, so we got to give him his props for it last night. Now, look, All-Star game coming up. James Harden probably going to be leading in those votes, but All-Star game, as we know, going to look a little bit different this year. It's going down in ATL during the first weekend in March, but Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has made it clear people should not come to party due to COVID concerns. Now, this is already on top of the fact that players like LeBron, Kawhi, and Giannis have already spoken out about having the game in the midst of a pandemic. Also, just a really packed and busy season. So, Stephen A., should the All-Star game just be canceled this year?
Believe it or not, I'm of that mindset right now. I do feel that way. I'm not happy about having to say that because I support the NBA and its players and everything that they try to do, but they're not on the same page with this. Clearly, the players don't want this game, and clearly the league feels compelled to do so for monetary reasons. So you can look at it from that perspective, understanding that the league collectively bargained to have this kind of power, that it's really not a choice of the NBA. Chris Paul and those guys, everybody's been pointing the finger at the Players Association as if they've agreed to this. No, they have no choice. It's been collectively bargained, and as a result, they can negotiate stipulations and things of that nature to make sure safety protocol and safety measures are exercised and things of that nature. But the bottom line is they don't have any say as to whether or not there's going to be an All-Star game. The league has say over that, and obviously they're trying to appease the networks to some degree. We get all of that. But here's the reality. The players and the league are not on the same accord in this regard. And now we have local government officials speaking out against this game taking place. When you see Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, all right, speak out and talk about how she has concerns. She's spoken to the league and et cetera, and she knows that they're going to do that, but you're encouraging people not to come to Atlanta. You're encouraging people not to party and things of that nature, not to have a festive kind of atmosphere, which we totally understand, and is a very responsible thing for her to do on her part. If you're the NBA, you're standing alone on an island here. You're flying guys in the night before on private jets and things of that nature. They come in to have a game, the slam dunk contest, the three-point contest, whatever, with no fans in attendance. Remember, the weekend is supposed to be for the fans to celebrate the athletes and the athletes to celebrate with the fans in a star-studded weekend gala. That's really what it's supposed to be. How does that happen without the fans? I don't see that, and I just think that there's too much noise that's been made about this, and it might behoove them to just decide not to have the All-Star game. That's just my feelings on it right now.
Well, Stephen A., I started out disagreeing with you about this even before the show. But one thing I've considered has actually changed my mind, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I want to tell you the one consideration, why I agree with you. The reason I agree with you is because what occurred to me, probably too late in this game thinking about it, was this is not like, well, they're playing games all over the place. What's the difference? The difference is from 30 different cities, from 30 different teams, people are going to be there, and then they're all going to go back to those places. So it creates a situation where the game can be a vector for the disease in a different way for COVID, in a different way than a normal NBA game or even a playoff game could be in the absence of a bubble. And that may be the deciding factor for me, especially since the players don't seem to have any enthusiasm for it. But now I want to play devil's advocate because with the exception of that thought, the fact that they all come together and then they all go back. So if anyone has it with, and it spreads, it's spreading everywhere, and we're in the middle of a pandemic still. But here's the devil's advocate position, and I think it's persuasive with the exception of what I just said. The All-Star game, you can talk about festivities all you want. The Atlanta mayor didn't say don't have the game. She said don't travel to the game. And for the media a lot of the time, and the players, the people involved in the festivities, I think, and whatever fans are there, I don't want to dismiss that, but whoever's live there, it feels like that's what it's all about this weekend. But in fact, it's a TV show. The vast majority of people participating in it from a consumer point of view, consuming it, are watching it on television. It's a TV show. And the NBA is dealing right now in a pandemic where interest in sports broadly has diminished because there have been bigger things going on in the world. Here is a chance for the league to showcase its greatest talents. And yes, if they're showing no enthusiasm for it, that's bad. But hopefully they would. Yeah, hopefully they would actually participate in the festivities, so to speak, on TV. Because as a TV show, I enjoy watching it. I like watching the slam dunk contest, three-point contest, the All-Star game, right? Like the game itself. It's not the greatest event of all time. It's not the NBA Finals, but it's a fun, a television show to watch in the absence of other stuff on, especially. And since the league needs it right now, and we're talking about, as you said, Stephen A., everyone's flying in on private jets and then flying back out again. To me, that is a really good case for playing this game and boosting the league.
Well, I think it's a stupid idea, and I think that the NBA really dropped the ball on this one for a number of reasons. One is obviously we're in a pandemic, okay, and the league is struggling to, right now, to keep games going in the regular season. We just had a game get postponed last night because of the pandemic and the virus, and guys are having to sit out. So that's one thing. The second thing, the league is breaking the trust that they was developing with the Players Association and the players. If we go back and look at what happened in the bubble, it was a beautiful thing to see with me, how the Players Association and Adam Silver and the NBA were coming together to make things happen, being on the same page. It was something that I never seen in my 14 years of playing. And now something that I never seen with me being on the other side is how they came together hand in hand to work things out. And so before the season started, the NBA told the players that they was not going to have an All-Star weekend and that they were going to have this time to take off. And now you break that trust because you pop this on them at the spur of the moment and said, oh, yeah, we're having an All-Star weekend. It breaks the trust. So just when the NBA and the Players Association was taking 3 steps forward, I think now they're taking 2 steps backwards again because the trust has been broken.
Yeah, this might have been a really good year to probably not play that game. The last time they didn't play was 1999. That was because of the lockout. Now, Kirk, you're going to be back with us in a bit. There was a lot to digest in this conversation, so we are going to revisit it later on in the show. All right, we got to move on here. We have some NFL to get to. The Texans, they do not want to cut Deshaun Watson loose, but what if the deal is too good to pass up? Which team is reportedly willing to put it all on the line for the quarterback, and which of the guys says the Texans need to take it? Plus, should he stay or should he go? Carson Wentz's future unknown, and we have a disagreement whether Wentz should be kept in Philly. First Take, just getting started. Stay with us.
Launching the world's easiest volunteer program. Drink a seltzer, help save a river.
In celebration of Black History Month, First Take continues our HBCU Wednesdays tour. And our final stop next week, we're checking out Jackson State University and checking in with their new football coach, primetime himself, Deion Sanders. So join us right here on First Take as we recognize Black History Month. And as we continue to spotlight HBCU Wednesdays here on First Take, we celebrate Morehouse College, founded in 1867, the world's only historically Black liberal arts college dedicated to educating and developing men. A program that graduated civil rights leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., seen here in the center, a true American icon. And meanwhile, in the NFL, according to our Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen, the Texans have no intention of trading Deshaun Watson. But what if the offer is just too good to pass up? The Panthers are the latest team to express interest, and from the sound of it, are willing to go all in. Panthers reporter David Newton gave his perspective yesterday on NFL Live.
Panthers will do whatever it takes to get Deshaun Watson, and that includes giving up 3 first-round draft picks and Christian McCaffrey. Now, owner David Tepper wants to win a Super Bowl. He's made that clear. He understands it takes a marquee quarterback to do that. Now, if you look at recent history outside of Patrick Mahomes, the quickest way to do that is to trade for a marquee quarterback and not draft one in the first round. Just ask Tampa Bay.
Okay, Max, if it's offered, should the Texans take the Panthers deal?
No, they shouldn't. And let me first say that David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, is right on the money here. Like, I take my hat off to him. They were good when he bought them, right? When he took over, they had a good coach and a good quarterback in Ron Rivera and Cam Newton. He said, yeah, we're good. I want to be great. I want to see if we can't do better. And he sees Deshaun Watson. He's like, I don't care. We need to do everything we can to get Deshaun. My hat's off to him. It's the right idea. But I don't think the deal is going to be the best deal they're offered, Stephen A. 3 firsts and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is an amazing player. And he's more than just a running back, but that is the position he plays. And you have to be careful when you overpay for running backs, both in terms of draft capital and contracts you give him. He's coming off a big injury, and he has a big contract. So that's one of the things you're getting back. And then you're getting 3 firsts. Well, is that the best offer they're going to get? Stephen A., you know what Miami can offer them? Miami's picking 3rd and 18th in the first round this year. And they have Tua Tagovailoa, who, were he coming out of the draft this year, would probably be the second quarterback taken. I think, and then they have a draft, first rounder next year. The Jets, Stephen A., have 2 firsts this year and 2 firsts next year and 2/3 this year. The Jets and the Dolphins are going to be in a position to offer the Texans a better deal than the one currently on the table, apparently, from the Panthers. So I don't think the Texans should take this one.
I'm not going to say no definitively. I get where you're coming from, and for the most part, I agree with you if that were the case. But we don't know what the Jets are willing to offer, what the Miami Dolphins are willing to offer. We hear a lot of noise, but we don't know. And if I'm the Houston Texans, I have to listen. And here's why I have to listen, Max. Because not only does those 3 first-round picks includes the number 8 overall pick coming up in this draft, but it also includes Christian McCaffrey. And we have to remember what a stud this brother is. He is something special. Make no mistake about it. And when you have a guy like him that's an all-world back, he's not a one-dimensional player. He can run. He can catch passes out of the backfield. You know what I'm saying? You could put him in a slot. He could make things happen. This brother is that gifted. Christian McCaffrey is an NFL star. Let's not forget that. And when I look at it from that perspective, and I'm talking about getting 3 picks along with him, Certainly, if you're the New York Jets and you offer something when you've got the number 2 overall pick, that changes things. Certainly, if you're the Miami Dolphins, all right, with the year that they've had, they're on a come up. You've got high picks to offer as well. Not to mention Tua Tagovailoa, if you wanted to throw him in there, yeah, I got to think about that, and that's probably better. But barring that, I don't know if I can get much better than what the Carolina Panthers may be in a position to offer me. I think the hiccup is that, remember, Deshaun Watson's got a no-trade clause, and he has to sign off on these things, just like Houston does. And I don't know if he'd sign off on Carolina, but if he were to be willing to do that, I would certainly consider that if I'm the Houston Texans, because Christian McCaffrey is a part of that deal.
You know, the thing is, the Panthers were, it's been reported, and people have speculated, what would it take for Carolina to trade up to grab Miami's number 3 pick? Right? They would do the second rounder, next year's first rounder, because then they could grab a quarterback, Zach Wilson or whomever, that they really like. So that draft capital, because they have the 8th pick, which is good, but obviously not as good as the 3rd, that draft capital would be spent just to get their quarterback, who knows if he'll ever be half as good as Deshaun Watson. But Miami is sitting there with the 3rd overall pick already. And the thing about the no trade that you bring up, Stephen A., is usually if you're Deshaun Watson, you're like, I don't want to go to that team. They stink. That's why they're drafting 3rd overall. But the Dolphins are kind of loaded. The Dolphins are a really good team. They have the 3rd pick because of a trade. So they're unlike the Jets. They're not a moribund franchise, as you would say, right? They're a strong, rising franchise in a warm weather state, right? You bring up the fact
with no state
in a league without African-American coaches and GMs, just keep ticking it off with no state income tax. Why would he not say, yeah, with a no trade clause, yeah, I want to be traded there? And the fact that they got the number 3 pick and a QB who'd probably be the second one taken and more draft capital, it just seems to me like what really the Texans have to do is find out, do the Dolphins want to trade for Deshaun Watson? Because if they do, you got to say no to the Panthers. They can't offer you as much. And by the way, who knows if Deshaun would say yes?
Here's the biggest reason you should say no to the Panthers if you were going to say no. You should say no to the Panthers if you're Deshaun Watson. Maybe not the Houston Texans, but definitely if you're Deshaun Watson. Here's why. Because I want to go and play with Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to arrive there at the expense of him leaving. That's really the biggest problem. You want Christian McCaffrey there with you, and that's not going to work. So, again, I'm not disagreeing. I think that the Jets and the Miami Dolphins are in a much better position to offer a better deal than the Carolina Panthers. I'm just saying we're not hearing that definitively that they're going to make those offers, particularly if you're the Miami Dolphins. And if that's not what the situation is, then I got to leave my options open if I'm the Texans. And 3 first-round picks plus Christian McCaffrey is not a bad deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're looking at it from the Texans' perspective, Christian McCaffrey is one of only 3 players to record 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards in the same season. Also a really likable guy, maybe someone that Houston can get behind now that they lost Watt. Also maybe Watson. And also, guys, Olivia Culpo is his girlfriend, all right? To me, that's a win. You get her in the stands during games. All right, we're going to leave it there. We got a lot more to get to right here on First Take. Will Pennsylvania stay Pennsylvania? There's a chance, and one of the guys says it's the best option for the Eagles. That debate coming up. And today we are spotlighting historic Morehouse College on our HBCU Wednesday. Morehouse has 32 academic majors taught by 85 full-time faculty and several championship-winning athletic teams. Here is Morehouse President David A. Thomas with a welcome message.
Welcome to First Take. I'm David Thomas, President of Morehouse College, the only historically black college dedicated to the education of men. We are the #1 producer of black men who go on to get doctorates, who've gone on to get Rhodes Scholarships and Fulbright Scholarships. The only place on the planet that produces black male excellence at scale. For those of you who are young men looking for your next stop, think about Morehouse.
Love his color coordination. We've been talking about it for a while now. Carson Wentz's future is still up in the air, and while several potential landing spots have already been named, we can't rule out the possibility that he stays in Philly. Keep in mind, Wentz is owed a $10 million roster bonus next month, which the Eagles will likely still need to pay in order to get maximum compensation for their now backup quarterback. Here's former Eagles quarterback Ron Jaworski on KJZ yesterday.
If you ask me just on a pure talent perspective, I think it's Carson Wentz, but that is not how this has played out. It has not been about pure talent. For 4 years, Carson was having a great career. Year 5 was just the opposite. He had a bad year last year. You can't sugarcoat the season he had. But I believe that he has tremendous God-given talent that I think he still has a bright future. And then when you throw Jalen Hurts into the picture, Jalen Hurts played well in 4 games. But I just don't think the sampling is big enough to say, yeah, Jalen Hurts should be the quarterback. I think at this point, hey, you know what? Go to camp. Let 2 guys battle it out. Isn't that what competitive sports is all about, professional sports is all about?
And we don't sugarcoat anything here on First Take. So, Max, what do you say? Is it smarter for the Eagles to keep or to trade Wentz?
Is this a trick question? Get rid of him if any sucker will take him. Look, you think it's an accident or a coincidence that the 2 teams we keep hearing about are Chicago and Indy, right? Why? Why is that? Because DeFilippo's in Chicago, his old quarterback's coach. He got promoted. He's the passing game coordinator. And Reich in Indy, who's, also was on that Doug Peterson coaching staff. Those are the only 2 teams that seem to be interested in Wentz right now because both guys believe, DeFilippo and Reich, that they can get in there and get what's good out of it. But both guys, reportedly, have been talking about we have to, tear it all down and build the mechanics ground up. I warned everybody about this, and I disagree with Jaws. Look, he's forgotten more football than I'll ever know. I get it. But I really disagree with Jaws about Carson Wentz for 4 years had a great career. No, he didn't. 1 year. He was great. He was great 1 year. MVP conversation 1 year. The next year, he wasn't as good. He was still good, wasn't as good. And so on. And obviously, Stephen A., well documented, not this past season, but the previous season, second half of the season, when everyone's like, oh my God, Wentz is so great. What did I keep coming on this show and saying? He's not great. In fact, he's regressing. It was all the signs were there. I kept pointing it out. This year didn't happen in a vacuum. All of a sudden, boom, he was no good. It started, you could see it halfway through last year, decline. And instead of taking accountability, taking stock of himself and working on the things he was screwing up, no, everyone was telling him how great he was. He believed they didn't do anything. And this year it got worse and worse and worse. And finally, he's obviously, everyone can finally tell what I've known since the middle of last year. He's no good. Now, even Pro Football Focus, Stephen A., had him 14th overall. Not this past season, the season before. And the season before that, middle of the pack quarterback, right? This year, 31st. He was 31 out of 32. 31 out of 32. He's not good. And the kind of stuff he needs to build himself back up, it's a lot. Stephen A., even if he can't do it in Philly. Oh, no, can't do it in Philly. What's all the reporting coming out of Philly? It's not that the Eagles are blameless. It's that Carson Wentz also deserves a big part of the blame. There's hero worship, reportedly, in the Philly Inquirer around Carson Wentz. He had a direct line to the owner, it has been reported, right? He has too much power in the organization. He split the locker room. A lot of guys don't want him there. And Stephen A., what about this? The day that Jalen Hurts is starting for the first time as a pro, we're hearing leaks in the media. Carson Wentz has no interest in being a backup. If so, he wants a trade. Who has interest in being a backup? What do you mean? Of course he doesn't have interest. Of course he wants to start. But you leak that day of your backup getting the start? He undermines the team on top of it? Of course you want him out of there.
Max Kellerman, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why the Eagles would be smart to keep Carson Wentz for the moment. Because of you. You, Max Kellerman, are the reason that they should keep him for now. Because nobody has served to devalue Carson Wentz more than you. If anybody out there is listening to you, they wouldn't want Carson Wentz for a bag of chips. You understand what I'm saying? So giving them away now doesn't work to their benefit. They'll get nothing in return, okay? You got to let that die down. You got to wait till Max Kellerman goes on vacation, him and all of his analytics crew and everybody else in between. You got to to make sure they disappear for a little bit while. Let them wait till they go on vacation. Wait till they're getting off the air. Wait till they stop talking about Carson Wentz. Let them fade into the twilight just a little bit and then find the sucker to take them. That's what you got to do here. That's number one. Number two, Max Kellerman, in all seriousness, let's take something else into consideration here. We can't just look at Carson Wentz. Do you understand that between the 50 that Carson Wentz suffered from, the 13 that Jalen Hurts suffered from, the 2 that Sudfeld suffered from, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line gave up 65 sacks last season. Do you realize that? 65 sacks are on the books for the Philadelphia Eagles, having surrendered that against their quarterback. So that's something to take into consideration, because if you're on suicide watch, how the hell can you throw the football? Then you got a running game with Boston Scott and Miles Sanders. Scott averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Miles Sanders averaging 5.3 yards a carry. How come you ain't giving the ball a run a little bit more? Particularly when Jalen Reagor, when Zach Ertz, when Goddard all missed at least 5 games, okay? And Deshaun Jackson only played in 5 games. So you were bereft of the necessary weapons, one could easily argue as well. There's a lot of things that went into the Eagles stinking up the joint on the offensive side of the ball the way that they did. And it wasn't simply the quarterback player Carson Wentz. It was a lot. He had an awful year, and we get all of that. You can't absolve him. But there's so much more that goes into that. When you combine that with all the noise that's been made about him and how he has been so flagrantly devalued, even though to some degree that is of his doing, it is also of the doing of people like you. The fact of the matter is, it might be in their best interest. And last point about this, Max, Jalen Hurts, I want to remind everybody of this. The brother's got wheels. He's a tremendous athlete, and he can run with the football. He ran for more yards in 5 games, or 4 games rather, than Carson Wentz ran in 12. We get that. But the flip side is this. He was 1-3 as a starter, and he only completed 52% of his passes, which was worse than Carson Wentz. So we talk about Jalen Hurts like, oh my God, he came in there looking like Dan Marino.
Yeah, they may have to draft another quarterback.
That's not the case.
Yep, they may have to draft another quarterback. It may be that was a bad idea to draft Hurts, but Wentz forced them into it with his play. And let me say this, Stephen A. I wouldn't be – first of all, the reason Wentz got sacked so much primarily because their pass block win rate on that Eagles offensive line was upper half of the league. The reason he got sacked so much, this is not Mahomes in the Super Bowl running for his life as soon as the ball is snapped, pressured constantly with only 4. This is Carson Wentz, who won't get rid of the ball. He held the ball way too long. His decision-making, his judgment was awful. He was like everything with Carson Wentz was wrong.
Hurts was sacked 13 times in 4 games. He didn't do that.
He was a rookie. He's a rookie. And by the way, you're right, but the offense looked better with Hurts. And he's a rookie who doesn't know what he's doing yet. And it looked better with Jalen Hurts than Carson Wentz. And insofar far as me or people like me in this case, are pulling the wagon in terms of Carson Wentz is no good. Stephen A., he brings that upon himself, not just with his play, because I wouldn't be as hard on him with his play, but when I see things like Jalen Hurts is going to start his first career game, and now it comes out Carson Wentz is talking about, I have no interest in being a backup.
That's low.
I see so much behavior that I find as undermining to the team. That were I another team looking at that, I'd be like, I don't know if I want that dude in the locker room.
Which is another reason why you got to hold on to him, because nobody's going to give up anything for him right now.
Yeah, low trade value at the moment. It's true.
Carson Wentz has earned his low trade value this past season. He was 28th out of 33 qualified passers in QBR. But let's not forget, guys, back in 2017, he led the league in QBR. Look,
he was great.
Maybe a turnaround? We don't know. Anyways, guys, was Bruce Arians taking shots at Bill Belichick when talking Brady's newfound freedom? Brady's new coach says he's been misunderstood, but someone here is not buying it. You do not want to miss this debate coming up. And our HBCU Wednesday is celebrating Morehouse College, which is the top producer of Rhodes Scholars among HBCUs, with 5 Morehouse men receiving the honor. Let's hear from some of the Morehouse students.
Attending Morehouse was really important to me because I wanted to be a part of a community that would best help me learn and grow. I think that as a student, you're always welcome to be yourself, but you also get exposed to the full spectrum of the Black male community, which helps you further develop your own identity.
As a STEM student, I've had the opportunity to engage in initiatives that I got off the ground with my closest friends. We've built high-powered rockets, zero-energy homes, and we've competed in competitions across the nation. I just really don't think that what we've done at Morehouse would be possible anywhere else in the country. And for that, I'm forever indebted to Morehouse.
NFL Super Bowl winning head coach Bruce Arians weighed in on why he believed Tom Brady decided to depart from the Patriot way and join the Buccaneers. He said, quote, "I think his competitive spirit is so strong that he wanted to do it. He wanted to show people. I've never said anything bad about Bill Belichick. I know everybody tries to say I do. His record speaks for itself. He is probably the greatest one ever, but I think Brady wanted to try a different way." Max, was Arians taking a shot at Bill Belichick?
Yeah, pretty clearly, yes. And he doesn't even have to want to take the shot. That doesn't have to be his intention. I'm going to say something. I'm going to aim at Bill Belichick. But shots fired. Yeah, of course. Because as I keep saying, the number one sports debate of the 21st century in the United States of America is, was it more Brady or Belichick? I mean, you could say LeBron and MJ, starting, but that really got serious around 2016 when LeBron beat the 73-win Warriors. Then really, that's relatively recent. But not for how long now? Was it more Brady or Belichick? It was the great debate. Then they parted ways. And Brady won a Super Bowl, Stephen A., year one. Now, I think this Bucs team is going to go down as one of the most loaded ever. When you look at what they did last, with Jameis Winston, 30 interceptions, still won 7 games. Then they added AB and Gronk and Leonard Fournette, playoff Lenny. They're loaded. But he didn't just make a playoff run. He won the Super Bowl, and Belichick missed the playoffs, and Belichick was under 500. So when Brady's new coach says, hey, Belichick's probably the greatest of all time, but I think Brady wanted to try another way. In other words, Brady can win Super Bowls without Belichick. That's not, the Patriot way is not just the Belichick way. That had a lot to do with Brady. You don't have to enter the no-fun zone to win a Super Bowl. You could do it over here with me. Maybe if I had Brady that whole time doing it another way, I'd be the greatest coach of all time. Yes, I don't see, especially Stephen A., after what Brady just did, the kind of lead he has on Belichick at this moment, the way he has someone like me who I never thought I'd say it. Brady's way up on Belichick right now. For his new coach to come out and say what he said is a shot at Belichick.
I don't think it's a shot at Belichick, the coach, at all. Bruce Arians is in no position to take a shot at Belichick. Belichick still has 5 more rings than him as a head coach and 7 more rings than him overall. So let's get that straight. That's number one. Number two, or at least I think it's 7. I think it's 7, yeah. But let me say this to you.
Yeah, 2 with the Giants, yeah.
Yeah. Let me say this to you. He was taking a shot at Bill Belichick, the GM, because that's the difference. That's the difference. Brady going on the field and performing, he wasn't asked to do, he had weapons so he could do things differently in terms of throwing the ball deep, but he was still a starting quarterback and, he did what he did on offense. The difference with Brady in Tampa compared to New England is that Brady wanted Antonio Brown. Bruce Arians said, okay, you can have Antonio Brown. Gronkowski wanted to retire in New England. Guess what? In Tampa, it was Brady's show. Gronk wants to come back. And so when you look at guys like that wanted to play with Brady, and Brady was basically the de facto GM for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and delivered a Super Bowl championship, when Bruce Arians is talking about a different way, those weren't conversations that Brady could have. Bill Belichick didn't give a damn what he wanted. Bill Belichick was like, look, you quarterback, I will run this team. And the personnel that will be on this team is who I will select to be on this team. You have no say in that regard. So when Bruce Arians is alluding to that, it being a different way, I think that he's talking about Belichick, the GM, compared to Brady, the GM, not about Belichick, the coach, because Bruce Arians is in no position to question Bill Belichick as a coach, which he acknowledged.
But I think on this issue, Stephen A., it's not, you might be right. It might be an issue of overall process that includes collaboration in terms of personnel. But is he taking a shot at Belichick, to me, is a bigger question. You know, the Patriot way is Belichick the coach, Belichick the GM. It's Robert Kraft the owner. It's Tom Brady as quarterback. It's everything, right? But what was it mostly about? I'll take your point. I'll run with that. Bruce Arians is saying, well, if it's not collaborative, if he's the boss and that's it, yeah, they won that way. But I won collaborating with this dude. And you can do that. And so that is also a shot, even whether he means to or not, it's a shot at Belichick, especially now. Belichick's sitting there at 7-9. Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl, right? And he name checks Belichick, Arians does, and says they did it that way all those years. We did it this way 1 year. We got a ring. You don't have to just do it that way. That's a shot.
Well, listen, I'm not going to dispute that. I just wanted to be specific about it being the coach. You know, collaboratively speaking, you're right. The bottom line is Bill Belichick wasn't willing to work with somebody that Bruce Arians clearly was willing to. But why was Bruce Arians willing to do so? Because Bruce Arians walked into this season never having captured a Super Bowl championship, nor having even gone to a Super Bowl. Whereas with Bill Belichick, he had won 6 as the head coach. So Bill Belichick has a level of cachet that he didn't feel compelled to alter, the way that he did things. And we can respect and understand that. What I will say, however, is this. Now that has happened, Bill Belichick, I mean, listen, this season is a wash. We know COVID and what a role it played in dismantling the New England Patriots as we know it. This season coming up and beyond is going to say a lot about Bill Belichick because Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl championship. You got to remember, this is the 3rd Super Bowl title. And this is the way to look at it. This is the 3rd Super Bowl title in 5 years that Tom Brady has won since Jimmy Garoppolo was on New England and Bill Belichick wanted him to succeed Tom Brady. Ever since then, right. Tom Brady
fair to say, Stephen A.
Tom Brady has won 3 Super Bowls. He's been to 4 in 5 years.
And we'll see if the Bucs can do it again next year, Stephen A. Because if they do become repeat champions, they'll be the first team to do so since the Patriots did it back in 2003 and 2004. All right, let's leave it right there. We got some NBA to get to when we return here on First Take. We're going to go back to Brooklyn because James Harden getting it done without KD or Kyrie. Is he the most important piece of the Big Three? Big Kirk joining us to hash it out. Also, we are spotlighting historic Morehouse College today, which is located in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, and home to the Morehouse College House of Funk Marching Band. Also, their world-famous Morehouse Glee Club. Let's hear from some more Morehouse students.
Morehouse is one of few spaces dedicated to the development of Black men, and as an institution of higher learning, provides an experience that is unmatched. Attending the HBCU was really important for me because I knew it would allow me to grow and develop while being surrounded by people who look like me and are all striving for success in its highest forms. HBCUs can take you to heights that society may try to make you believe are unreachable. Whether it's Nobel Prizes, Oscars, Grammys.
J. Watt last week, league sources telling ESPN's Ed Werder that approximately a dozen teams have reached out with interest, including the Cleveland Browns and also the Tennessee Titans. However, Watt's priority in determining his next team is reportedly the belief that he'll have the opportunity to play in a Super Bowl. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think he deserves that. So, Stephen A., which team do you think gives J.J. Watt the better opportunity at going to the Super Bowl? Is it the Browns or is it the Titans?
Well, I would say the Titans, but let me say this because, I mean, Derrick Henry running the football and, Ryan Tannehill still being there, and he's been a really good quarterback for the Titans. That defense is real, but you add J.J. Watt to the mix and his ability to get to the quarterbacks, that's going to help you defensively, and it's going to help give you more offensive possessions, which means you'll give Derrick Henry more opportunities to run the football. But let me also say this, Max. If J.J. Watt were to go to the Cleveland Browns, it is an act of betrayal to his family, to TJ and Derek. It would be betrayal.
Here we go.
Okay?
Here we go.
You can't go to the Cleveland Browns. Now, you want to go to Tampa.
This is pathetic.
You want to go to Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Fine. But to go to the Cleveland Browns when you have an opportunity to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it would be blasphemous. It would be sacrilegious in an absolute act of betrayal, the likes of which Mama Watt should get involved and chastise her son. That's right, I said it. It would mess up Thanksgivings. It would mess up Christmases. It would mess up all of that stuff. For family obligation alone, you can't go to the Cleveland Browns when two of your brothers are on Pittsburgh, the same division with a team that can compete for the Super Bowl, that wants you, has a spot for you, and not only do you choose not to join your brothers, you would go against them by wearing a Cleveland Browns uniform. You would rather be playing off of Lake Erie instead of Three Rivers, Heinz Field. Are you kidding me? It would be an act of betrayal. And J.J. Watt, somebody needs to tell him that. So damn it, I'm doing it.
You know, Stephen A., one thing about you is I'm really disappointed right now because you're a good dude. And this is the first time on this show. It's like you're a bad person for this. How could you do this? You are putting your own interests as a Steelers fan, ahead of J.J. Watt, who is one of the greatest players of all time.
I'm thinking about the Watt family.
A pillar in the community.
I'm a family man. I'm a family man. I'm thinking about the Watt family.
He does great works on and off the field, and this man deserves to try to win a Super Bowl.
I love J.J. Watt.
Would rather serve your own selfish interests here. Stephen A., you'd rather serve your own selfish interests. Put him on a team that does not have a quarterback capable of winning a Super Bowl right now, and you know it. Shame on you. Now,
you get Baker Mayfield is capable of winning a Super Bowl quicker than Ben Roethlisberger?
It's possible. Oh, yeah, quicker than Ben Roethlisberger right now? Yes, quicker than Ben Roethlisberger. Here's the thing. I'll stick to the question, Browns or Titans, okay? Vrabel's done a great job. No doubt about it. Titans are a good team. The thing about Stefanski is, you know when the last time Minnesota was sub 500? That was 2014. I mean, Stefanski's been on that staff forever, right? Doing different jobs on the offense. But 2014 is the last time they were sub 500. Stefanski leaves just like that. They're below 500. The Browns, last time the Browns were above 500 was 2007. Stefanski shows up just like that. They're above 500. Stefanski's difference, the kind of difference he's made for that team and that offense has been remarkable. And then you look at the pieces and the talent they have, Stephen A. I mean, even if Odell doesn't stay on the team, they're going to get value for him in a trade. But they have a whole lot of. And their run defense was excellent, right? And they have high-end performers on defense. They could use another defensive piece. And even though J.J. Watt's not J.J. Watt anymore, he's like J. Watt. You got to take at least one J off compared to the way he was in his prime. But J. Watt is still better than a lot of guys. That dude still has value, and he would be a real addition to that Browns defense.
I'm a family man. I'm just looking out for the Watt family. I'm trying to keep the peace and keep it together. That's really what the intent is. He's great. He would be great with his brothers in the Steel City. That's all I'm saying.
Stephen A., you're a good person, but you're wrong for this.
On the other hand, though, there is the guarantee of having several divisional games a year against each other, so could be maybe a good chance for a family reunion once or twice.
It's not good for the family.
You could see it both ways, two sides of this coin. All right, guys, let's move on. We have a big special guest coming up here on First Take, and it's none other than this man right here, Morehouse man, filmmaker, ultimate Knicks fan, Spike Lee. He'll be in the house to talk his days attending an HBCU. And, of course, Falcons been talking about it for a while now. Carson Wentz's future is still up in the air. And while several potential landing spots have already been named, we can't rule out the possibility that he stays in Philly. Keep in mind, Wentz is owed a $10 million roster bonus next month, with the Eagles will likely still need to pay in order to get maximum compensation for their now backup quarterback. Here's former Eagles quarterback Ron Jaworski on KJZ yesterday.
If you ask me just on a pure talent perspective, I think it's Carson Wentz, but that is not how this has played out. It has not been about pure talent. For 4 years, Carson was having a great career. Year 5 was just the opposite. He had a bad year last year. You can't sugarcoat the season he had. But I believe that he has tremendous God-given talent that I think he still has a bright future. And then when you throw Jalen Hurts into the picture, Jalen Hurts played well in 4 games. But I just don't think the sampling is big enough to say, yeah, Jalen Hurts should be the quarterback. I think at this point, hey, you know what? Go to camp. Let 2 guys battle it out. Isn't that what competitive sports is all about, professional sports is all about?
And you know we don't sugarcoat anything here on First Take. So, Max, what do you say? Is it smarter for the Eagles to keep or to trade Wentz?
Is this a trick question? Get rid of him if any sucker will take him. Look, you think it's an accident or a coincidence that the 2 teams we keep hearing about are Chicago and Indy, right? Why? Why is that? Because DeFilippo's in Chicago, his old quarterback's coach. He got promoted. He's the passing coordinator now, passing game coordinator. And Reich in Indy, who's, also was on that Doug Peterson coaching staff. Those are the only 2 teams that seem to be interested in Wentz right now because both guys believe, DeFilippo and Reich, that they can get in there and get what's good out of it. But both guys, reportedly, have been talking about we have to, tear it all down and build the mechanics ground up. I warned everybody about this, and I disagree with Jaws. Look, he's forgotten more football than I'll ever know. I get it. But I really disagree with Jaws about Carson Wentz for 4 years had a great career. No, he didn't. 1 year. He was great. He was great 1 year. MVP conversation 1 year. The next year, he wasn't as good. He was still good, wasn't as good. And so on. And obviously, Stephen A., well documented, not this past season, but the previous season, second half of the season, when everyone's like, oh my God, Wentz is so great. What did I keep coming on this show and saying? He's not great. In fact, he's regressing. It was all the signs were there. I kept pointing it out. This year didn't happen in a vacuum. All of a sudden, boom, he was no good. It started, you could see it halfway through last year, decline. And instead of taking accountability, taking stock of himself and working on the things he was screwing up, no, everyone was telling him how great he was. He believed they didn't do anything. And this year it got worse and worse and worse. And finally, he's obviously, everyone can finally tell what I've known since the middle of last year. He's no good. Now, even Pro Football Focus, Stephen A., had him 14th overall. Not this past season, the season before. And the season before that, middle of the pack quarterback, right? This year, 31st. He was 31 out of 32. 31 out of 32. He's not good. And the kind of stuff he needs to build himself back up, it's a lot. Stephen A., even if he can't do it in Philly. Oh, no, can't do it in Philly. What's all the reporting coming out of Philly? It's not that the Eagles are blameless. It's that Carson Wentz also deserves a big part of the blame. There's hero worship, reportedly, in the Philly Inquirer around Carson Wentz. He had a direct line to the owner, it has been reported, right? He has too much power in the organization. He split the locker room. A lot of guys don't want him there. And Stephen A., what about this? The day that Jalen Hurts is starting for the first time as a pro, we're hearing leaks in the media. Carson Wentz has no interest in being a backup. If so, he wants a trade. Who has interest in being a backup? What do you mean? Of course he doesn't have interest. Of course he wants to start. But you leak that day of your backup getting the start? He undermines the team on top of it? Of course you want him out of there.
Max Kellerman, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why the Eagles would be smart to keep Carson Wentz for the moment. Because of you. You, Max Kellerman, are the reason that they should keep him for now. Because nobody has served to devalue Carson Wentz more than you. If anybody out there is listening to you, they wouldn't want Carson Wentz for a bag of chips. You understand what I'm saying? So giving them away now doesn't work to their benefit. They'll get nothing in return, okay? You got to let that die down. You got to wait till Max Kellerman goes on vacation, him and all of his analytics crew and everybody else in between. You got to make sure they disappear for a little bit while. Let them wait till they go on vacation. Wait till they're getting off the air. Wait till they stop talking about Carson Wentz. Let them fade into the twilight just a little bit and then find the sucker to take them. That's what you got to do here. That's number one. Number two, Max Kellerman, in all seriousness. Let's take something else into consideration here. We can't just look at Carson Wentz. Do you understand that between the 50 that Carson Wentz suffered from, the 13 that Jalen Hurts suffered from, the 2 that Sudfeld suffered from, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line gave up 65 sacks last season. Do you realize that? 65 sacks. are on the books for the Philadelphia Eagles having surrendered that against their quarterback. So that's something to take into consideration, because if you're on suicide watch, how the hell can you throw the football? Then you got a running game with Boston Scott and Miles Sanders. Scott averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Miles Sanders averaging 5.3 yards a carry. How come you ain't giving the ball a run a little bit more? Particularly when Jalen Reagor, when Zach Ertz, when Goddard all missed at least 5 games, okay? And Deshaun Jackson only played in 5 games. So you were bereft of the necessary weapons, one could easily argue as well. There's a lot of things that went into the Eagles stinking up the joint on the offensive side of the ball the way that they did. And it wasn't simply the quarterback player Carson Wentz. It was a lot. He had an awful year, and we get all of that. You can't absolve him. But there's so much more that goes into that. When you combine that with all the noise that's been made about him and how he has been so flagrantly devalued, even though to some degree that is of his doing, it is also of the doing of people like you. The fact of the matter is, it might be in their best interest. And last point about this, Max, Jalen Hurts, I want to remind everybody of this. The brother's got wheels. He's a tremendous athlete, and he can run with the football. He ran for more.
Their new football coach, primetime himself, Deion Sanders. So join us right here on First Take as we recognize Black History Month. And we continue to celebrate HBCU Wednesdays by spotlighting historic Morehouse College as one of the most prominent alumni of any institution, including civil rights leader and icon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., seen right here in the center of this photo. And now, what do you say we welcome in another celebrated, also prominent Morehouse College alum, award-winning filmmaker, friend of the show, ultimate Knicks fan. You know the man. He needs no introduction. We'll give it to him anyways. Spike Lee. How you doing?
How you doing? I'd just like you to know that when Dr. Martin Luther King graduated in 48, my father was a freshman.
Wow.
And Martin Luther King III and I are in the same class, 1979. I'm a third-generation Morehouse man, and my mother and grandmother went to Spelman across the street. What?
I can't top that. I can't even come close to topping that, my brother. I can't do it. But Spike, listen, before we get into sports, I just want to ask this question. Could you talk a little bit about what going to an HBCU? Obviously, Morehouse is a special place, but being a product of an HBCU, what that has meant to your career, what that has meant to your life. Can you put that in perspective for a lot of folks out there for me, please?
Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, everyone. I learned how to be a man at Morehouse. It's a special feeling when your professors, your teachers, the faculty, the administration look like you. A lot of these large white institutions, if you're not an athlete, if you're not running up and down the court or the gridiron, they don't care about you. You get nurtured at Black institutions. And I would not be the person I am today or the artist I am today if I had not become a Morehouse man.
Thank you.
Spike,
go ahead, Max.
To my recollection, school days, it was She's Gotta Have It, and then it was school days, and then it was Do the Right Thing, correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Right, okay. So that was a look, school days was a look at life at an HBCU, right? Like Big Brother Almighty, I still remember that. And I haven't seen it since, 1988, I think I was 9th or 10th grade, right? Spike, what did it mean to you to make that film?
School days was my 4 years at Morehouse, jam-packed in a homecoming weekend. But I have to say, I took my major across the street at Clark College, now Clark AU. Morehouse didn't have a mass application major. So my major was across the street, and I get killed all the time when I don't mention that my major is across the street at Clark College. Both my 4 years jam-packed in a homecoming weekend. And another thing I like to say, even today, people stopped me, total strangers on the street, and said, I went to a black school because I saw School Days.
That's right.
And that dude came out in 1988, and people still tell me that.
That's big.
And I tell you something that I think people miss as well. You know, I mean, they don't realize like a lot of times when folks watch shows like Law and Order, they see a Samuel L. Jackson. They've in a particular episode, a Giancarlo Esposito, a Tisha Campbell, and others. I mean, excuse me, they were in your movies before there was Law and Order. They were in your movies. You were highlighting the great. I mean, you were basically profiling and really showcasing future stars in the world of Hollywood and entertainment. Could you speak to that? I mean, because there's a lot of talent that you put in your films, and obviously a lot of them come from HBCUs as well. Can you talk about that for a second?
Well, Do the Right Thing. That was Martin Lawrence's first film.
That's right.
Rosie Perez's first film. Yeah. The late, great
Ruby Davis, Ozzie Davis, all of them.
Ozzie Davis, Ruby D.
Ruby D.
Mekhi Phifer, Clock was his first film. Jungle Fever, that was Halle Berry's first film. Yeah. Queen Latifah's first film. And also John David. David Washington, the star of my film. Black Klansman, he's the Morehouse brother.
Oh, excuse me. Let me interrupt for a second here. John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington. Malcolm and Marie on Netflix. Spectacular. He might win an Oscar for that. He might win an Oscar. I'm telling you right now.
Off the old block for sure.
He better get. Let me tell you something. He ain't just Denzel Washington's son. He's John David Washington. The brother is a sensational
he's his own
talent.
man. He's his own man.
He's his own man. He's a sensational talent. He better get nominated. At least get nominated for an Oscar. He might win one. Him and Zendaya, Max, and Malcolm and Marie. Spectacular performance. I'm sorry to digress.
I'll check it out. Spike.
Spectacular.
Spike.
Spectacular.
You are a sports fan, and we are a sports show. Even though we're talking HBCUs. So I want to ask you, when you see like McCord Maker choose an HBCU or Deion Sanders coach at an HBCU, what do you think that does? What are you thinking? What kind of effect do you think that has?
I think the more profile black schools get, college universities, it's a great thing. And my brother went to Howard, he's like, is one of the top prospects. And so they could be a trickle-down effect. I'd like to say something. When Tiger was hitting, I thought that there would be a revolution of black golfers. It never happened. So I don't want to go too far out in the limb.
Okay. Then listen. Because we're running out of time, I'd be remiss in neglecting to bring this up. Max was laughing at me yesterday morning, but it's not a laughing matter. The Knicks are coming, Spike Lee. I like what I'm seeing. Julius Randle dropped 44. Julius Randle's going to be an all-star. Tom Thibodeau won 3 straight. I like what I'm seeing from the Knicks. They on the come up, Spike Lee. They on the come up.
Orange and blue skies, baby.
Talk to me about this. My Knicks are coming. Your Knicks are coming.
This is why the Knicks are no good. It's your two fault. Spike and Stephen A., it's your fault. It's your fault right now. This is why. They're a game under 500. You're celebrating like they won the finals, Spike. This is an outrage.
Max. My grandmother told me, who lived to be 100 years old, you have to crawl before you can walk.
That's right.
Look at our record last year at this time, and look our record now.
That's right. That's
also,
right.
Your grandma lived to be 100? Spike,
one last thing.
Grandma lived to be 100?
She put me through Morehouse, NYU.
I'm 47. I'm 47. I haven't seen the Knicks win in my lifetime. I might live to be 100 and never see the Knicks win a championship. What are you talking about? If anything, life is too short.
Marina, May 8th, 1970 for the Willis Reed game. What? But last time, I know you got to go. I have to give a birthday shout out to the GOAT, born in Cumberland Hospital, Fort Greene, New York, right here, Michael Jordan. Happy birthday, Michael. Brooklyn,
happy birthday, MJ.
Happy birthday.
I was going to give him an MJ. I was going to give him a birthday salute, the one and only MJ, no question about it. The greatest of all time. But here's the deal, Max. You can sit up there and you can say all of this. You can say all of this. Let me tell you this.
Where was he born?
Of course, Brooklyn. But here's the deal, Brooklyn. I understand. But here's the deal, y'all. Are y'all ready for this? Max Kellerman with Worldwide West, William Wesley, with Leon Rose and those boys. The culture change. If they were there earlier, they might have got KD and Kyrie. Okay? I'm telling you, they're on the come up. There's a culture change that's taking place at the Garden, Max Kellerman.
Where did KD and Kyrie play?
Sports.
Look at you two. KD, Kyrie, and Harden. They just moved to Brooklyn. They got all three of them.
If Scott Norton would have missed a field goal, I don't want to talk about Patrick. You cannot use if in sports. The house.
You know what? Let me pull a Stephen A. Spike Lee, let me pull a Stephen A. I'm especially disgusted with you, Brooklyn. When people think Spike Lee, they think Brooklyn. You got a basketball team in Brooklyn. You can probably see it from three of the greatest players you ever want to see on the same team, and you're talking about the Knicks?
And I love them.
Mr.
And I root for them against everybody but the Knicks.
Max.
Against everybody but the Knicks.
Please don't cut me. Let me answer this question before you cut me off. I was at the Garden, May 8th, 1970, the Willis Reed game. My guys, Willis, Bill Bradley, DeBusschere, Dick Barnett, Earl Monroe, Bill Hoskin, Coach Red Auerbach, orange and blue. I don't care. I'm loyal.
Unlike some people, Max.
Yeah, I didn't live through that. I wasn't born yet.
You better recognize.
I lived through Charles Oakley getting escorted out of Madison Square Garden is what I lived through.
And whose fault was that?
You better recognize. Let me tell y'all something real quick. If the Knicks make the playoffs, Max, the only way Brooklyn is a bigger story is if they make it to the finals and win it. If the Brooklyn Nets don't go to the finals, the Knicks are actually a better story making it to the first round of the playoffs than Brooklyn would be getting to the conference finals. It's New York, baby. It's New York, baby. You better understand that. All right? I'm just telling you.
Blue skies, baby.
Loyalty.
Hey,
that's
Max,
what I'm saying.
We got a lot of loyalty on this
1970.
crew today. I like it.
Recognize.
It's New York, baby.
All right. Hey, Spike, thank you so much for
coming
on
on
First
Trent
Take.
Tucker had with a 4-point play. I'm still living off of that.
The house. More house.
We, of course, love talking sports with you. Also, thank you for being here.